when you look at me, what do you see? Usually when I meet someone, as cliche as it may sound, they judge me. What they tend to see is just another white Jewish kid from East Brunswick. And to me, this reaction is a form of ignorance because they fail to look past the things I cannot change. Now, when people ask me where I'm from, I can proudly tell them that I'm an Ecuadorian American. But usually the response I get is just a look of confusion. While yes, I may be white, and yes, I may be Jewish, that has never, nor will it ever, change the fact that I'm a proud Hispanic with strong Ecuadorian roots. My name is Jonah Aguilar, and I'm here to talk to you about first impressions. Now, in order to combat this judgment, I've manipulated things to present myself to the best way possible. So just to name a few, I've changed my dressing style, my posture, and I've developed speaking skills. For my entire life, I've been judged by countless people without them even having the chance to get to know who I am on the inside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull two pictures up of two different people. And I want you to form first impressions of them, and then I want you to think to yourself whether or not you would or would not hire them. So here's the first one. Okay, so let's get started. According to Princeton University psychologist Alex Turturov, it takes us within 1/10 of a second to form a first impression of each other when meeting someone new. Along those lines, he has found that we respond intuitively to faces so rapidly that we do not have time to overcome that snap judgment with our own logical and reasoning minds. So let me give you an example of what this means. Let's say you're at a job interview, and it's the interview phase, right? So you greet the interviewer with a handshake, a firm handshake, and then the next step is that they look you and see your face. And in that split second when they look at you, they determine who you are. Smart, ugly, dumb, attractive. Now sometimes it could be a good thing, or sometimes this could be a bad thing. My goal here today is to get you past that first impression and to shed light on what to do after that inevitable first impression is made. So part of people's initial judgment of each other is based on physical traits, for example, height, weight, and general attractiveness. Now these are all things that we're stuck with, and we cannot change. So when we meet someone, naturally, a large part of their first impression is based off of these traits, especially since humans tend to make instant judgments of each other upon sight. And again, not to be cliche, but we're all human. Nobody's perfect, and we each have our individual flaws. So therefore, we have to change things that we are in control of. But before that, you have to be confident about what's on the inside. Without that confidence, no one will ever know the real and true you. Who you are and what you believe in will show once you believe in what you say and what you do. So, there are ways to both improve that initial 1/10 of a second judgment and ways to create a good second impression to overcome the missteps of the first. So let's go back to that interview scenario. Based on your first impression of those characters, you believe that they would or would not be able to get the job. And you base this off of two categories. One, unchangeable traits such as physical traits, or two, some changeable characteristics. Now, like I said, weight, height, and general attractiveness are extremely essential when one creates a first impression. According to University of Florida psychologist Timothy A. Judge, height is literally the process of looking up at someone, or looking down at others. And may cause one to be more confident. Similarly, having others look up to us, or to tall people, may instill confidence in that tall person. So let me give you an example of this in real life. In presidential history exists a presidential height index. Nikki Schwab, writer for the U.S. News, has researched presidential outcomes since 1900. In her research, she has found that the taller guy has won the election 19 times, while the shorter man has won it only 8 times. She concluded her research with this thought: that whether in politics or in everyday life, the general consensus of people tend to favor the taller person. Now, along those lines again, Wendy Alonzo, researcher at Pennsylvania State University, has been researching something called the halo effect, and she has found that overweight people tend to be at a disadvantage in terms of hireability in the workplace. With this halo effect, she has found that, among other things, 3 things specifically correlate to it: height, weight, and general attractiveness. So the halo effect is when we tend to draw a conclusion based off of an individual characteristic. So according to the halo effect, an overweight employee may or may not be judged by their colleagues based off of their physique. When they're based off their physique because of the halo effect, this leaves their other characteristics, good or bad, to be overshadowed. Characteristics such as enthusiasm, dependability, or even intelligence are therefore obsolete. So we really can't change things like our physique. So what do? It's time to create a good second impression to overcome the missteps of the first. Tia Mowry once said, "Second chances make us want to work stronger." And in this case, second impressions do. So what can we change and manipulate to present ourselves in the best way possible to overcome that first impression? I've outlined 3 things. 1, clothing and dressing style, as I said before. 2, body language. And 3, posture. So let's start with dressing styles and clothing. Since I was little, my dad's always been telling me, dress to impress. And as much as I'd like to follow it, it's not always ideal, because sometimes I like to wear sweatpants and just chill out. And I'm sure much of you are like this as well. So I suggest that whenever you can, dress to impress. If you know you're going to an interview or something like that, if you know you're going to meet someone, if you're going to the mall and there's a possibility that you're going to meet someone, dress to impress. So next is posture. You want to keep a relaxed but confident posture. Now this means standing up straight and never having your hands in your pockets. Because when you have your hands in your pockets, it shows that you're shy or anxious. And next, strategic body language is also imperative. If you're standing up, you don't want to have happy feet. You want to be pacing around like I've been doing a little bit. And if you're sitting, sit still. Because if you're moving, shaking your legs or making constant movements, that can show anxiety as well. And anxiety is always a negative indicator when meeting someone for the first time. So, like I see here, good posture. Never have your hands in your pockets. So we've outlined dressing style, posture, and good body language. So what's the next step? Let me bring you back to that interview scenario. They look up at you, they see your face. What's next? The next step is speech. Now speech, when used properly, can be extremely advantageous to really solidifying that second impression. When speaking, you want to use the basics. You want to speak clearly and slowly in order to show you know what you're talking about, and then you want to project your voice to show enthusiasm and passion. And when you talk slowly, it exemplifies the 3 C's: calmness, collectivity, and confidence. Another good tip is that you could always throw in a little bit of vocabulary, but not to an extent where you look like you're uncertain about the true meaning of the words. My point is, you want to have a clear and good command of your words. And after all of this, you can create a good, solid second impression that would overcome the first one, good or bad. Now with that first impression, however bumpy, in the long run, you'll be able to, who you are and what you believe in will show in the minds and will ring in the minds of everyone you meet, even with that bumpy first impression. Thank you.